The first verse I'm going to get into today is Mark chapter 11, verse 24. And this is where manifestation begins with belief. It says, therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Let me repeat that. Mark chapter 11, verse 24 says, therefore, I tell you, this is Jesus talking.
Right.
Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. So basically, it's belief before blessings. This is how faith activates results.
Right.
So my question is to those listeners, do I truly believe it's already mine when I pray, or am I just hoping it works out? What you think?
Well, that's the thing. It's as I say, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Right. And the thing about it is that one thing I've learned about manifestation when it comes to relating it to biblical values and biblical knowledge is that with manifestation goes hand in hand in not only self-awareness but also facing oneself, right? Because in order for you to really be able to actually seek things that are greater than what you see right now, you have to have that belief in the truth. You have to have that integrity that, you know, you have to be honest with yourself then. Very honest.
Well, I think that's the thing.
You know, because a lot of people will use manifestation for things that they're not capable in the moment of getting, right?
Well, I think we base it on the expectation of when you're going to get it.
Right.
I think the important thing about this particular scripture is, therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Is that prayer is, to me, is about action.
Right. Exactly.
It's about
absolutely action.
Am I moving in a way that my prayer is already answered?
Right.
So if your belief is to start a business, or your belief is to buy a house, or whatever it may be, then you have to move in that action.
Right.
So, for example, I could talk about my own personal situation. It's about almost 20 years ago. I wrote down on a notebook, and this is the time I was living at home with my parents, no car, no job. And I wrote down in my book that my goal is to buy a house in 3 years.
Nice.
Okay. Wrote it down. And I would read that almost every day. So I remember we would go out and we would go look at houses via open houses. And we would go to different areas in San Diego where we thought we wanted to live. I was moving in a way as if the prayer was already answered.
Okay.
I didn't know how
I
was going to make this work.
Right.
Well, I did not buy a home within 3 years.
Okay.
Of that goal.
Right.
I bought it within 2.
Nice. Nice.
I bought it within 2 years.
Right.
So I moved like it was going to happen, and I didn't have the resources then when I wrote it down.
Right.
So I think sometimes we focus too much on timing, meaning God didn't answer my prayers if it didn't happen next week or next month or within a year.
Right.
You know, you just have to move in a way that prayer is already answered.
Right. And I mean, since you're talking about the mind, so I mean, manifestation starts in the mind, and that's where the key of almost every big creation, any creation that you can think that man has created on earth, is started up in our mind. So it shows how powerful our mind is, right? And one of the things we don't really understand is that there's that mind. The mind actually is something that pushes creates our actions, right? So controls our actions basically. So when you whatever you focus on, that's where the energy goes. So there's a saying that where focus goes, energy flows, right? And one of the things that Cynthia talked about that in terms of home ownership and stuff, I always tell my clients right now, especially when you're looking at the prices in San Diego and Southern California, buying a home is almost crazy today because you're paying over $500,000 for an asset, right? And that's for most people, that's out of reach, the average person, right? But but there are ways in which people are doing it. I was telling them, if you want to buy a home, you have to actually start thinking about what is that home going to look like. Right. You know, you really have to start right there because you got to plant those seeds in your mind. Because a lot of us argue ourselves out about blessings, right?
We argue ourselves out of blessings?
Yeah, we argue ourselves out. And I will say this, one of the things I'll tell all my clients, you see, as long as you fight for your limitations, you're going to get them, right? So why not just turn that energy around and fight for your dreams and goals? Right?
Yes.
So I mean, so a lot of us actually argue and be like, oh, well, can't do it, can't. No, I don't see it happen. So I mean, that's what you're manifesting out there.
Okay, so that leads me to scripture number 2. Okay. Your words create your world.
Exactly.
So death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. That's Proverbs 18:21. And that just so happens comes from one of the wisest men ever to live, King Solomon.
Yes.
So again, Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Right.
And those who love it will eat its fruit. So speak it until you see it.
Right.
So that poses the question, what have I been consistently speaking, and is it building or breaking my future?
Right. And that's the power of words, right? So speaking into existence, right? As people always say. And I was like, and King Solomon was one of those, I mean, I always leave Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, one of those, he's one of those, when you really want wisdom and you really want wise guidance in the Bible, I always tell people, go to Proverbs, go to read Ecclesiastes.
You know, interesting of Proverbs, there's 31.
Right.
So you can read a chapter a day.
Right.
And you can complete it in a month.
Exactly. Exactly, in a month. Right. Yeah. And if you ever want to start reading the Bible, or if you just want to read something in the Bible that actually gives you some understanding of how to make decisions, I think yes, definitely probably is easy class. Easy class. Ecclesiastes. Well, what's wrong? No. Ecclesiastes is one of those chapters that you should read. Now, one of the things that I would say is that speaking it into existence, and is something where I think we have to take charge of our minds, and therefore responsible for what we are in charge of our minds, and that's one thing we have to realize, right? What we do is our responsibility. We have to take accountability for that. So that means we're responsible for the results and the way we think.
So I heard the great Maya Angelou say this, that she truly believes in the power of words. She talks about how when she was a kid,
right,
she was assaulted by someone close to her family, and she had told some of the people in her family, and the man that assaulted her ended up dead. And she felt real bad about it, to the point where she said she stopped talking. She just stopped talking for many years because she believed her words killed him. So she would still read, she would still go to school, but she just would not talk. She didn't say anything.
Right.
And obviously later on she started talking because the great books and poems, and became a professor and a great thought leader. And she said one day in an interview, she says that she believes words can't go void. So what you say attaches to something. She believes it attaches to the walls, the chairs,
right?
The clothes. Like what you say,
right,
just can't manifest somewhere. It has to manifest this somewhere,
right?
So what you say is extremely important, and that's why God gave us 2 ears and one mouth.
Right. Right. We gotta listen
because we gotta listen twice as much as we speak.
And words carry some power, right? So a lot of people tend to forget that words are very, very powerful. right? That's why when we read the Bible, we get inspired, right?
Right,
When we read
right.
books, we get inspired. So what you say definitely carries some weight, especially what you say to yourself. Not what you say, not what you
Right.
say out there, but what you say to yourself a lot.
And that
So
self-talk is super
right,
important.
yeah,
There's a book out there called Self-Talk by this author named Lou Tice,
right,
and he was talking about the importance of, you know, no enemy without can harm you like the enemy within.
right,
So what are
exactly,
you saying to yourself all the time?
right,
And sometimes you don't have to verbalize it. You're thinking it.
right,
And so I just think it's like you said, man, this is extremely important that, we choose our words wisely, especially if you want to purchase something like a house,
right,
which is your business.
right,
And if you keep on saying, I can't do it, it costs too much,
right,
interest rates are too high,
right,
you know, San Diego, all that type of stuff, then your wish is
right.
my
You're
command.
speaking it into
You're
existence.
speaking into
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah, it's so much important, and as I said, as long as you fight for your limitations, you are going to get them,
Right.
right? So I would say just switch it around, start fighting for your goals and your dreams.
Right.
It's going to be a battle, but you know what? The more people in that battle, the more people fighting on your side, it's better off you're going to be, right?
There you
You're
go.
going to get more success.
So the other thing is I'm going to hit on when it comes to this is I can't even talk. I can't even talk now. Hebrews
Hebrews
chapter 11 verse 1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for,
Mhm.
the evidence of things not seen." So that brings up is faith is the substance of what you don't see.
Right,
So faith over feelings, trusting what you can't yet
right,
touch.
right.
So you ask yourself, am I walking by faith or am I being driven by what I see and feel?
Hmm.
So here's an example. Here's an example. I was thinking about this today. When we go to the restaurant and we look at the menu
Right,
and we put an order in, we have enough faith and trust that whatever we ordered is going to come out to us
right,
and feed us,
right.
even if it's the first time you ever been to that restaurant.
Hmm.
So let's say it that we have a God out there who wants to see us do better than any.
Right,
Even if we haven't physically seen it yet, we have
right,
to have a vision of seeing it.
right.
So again, am I walking by faith or am I being driven by what I see and feel?
Right. And something that I always put in perspective, and when people say is that all right? So if you believe that there's no God, that means everything that we see in this earth, outside of the earth, outside of the universe, which every time we actually investigate more and more and more, we discover it. Like they say, like every year, I think it's 15,000 species of plants are discovered, new plants are discovered.
Mhm.
So one of the things is that and so
Yeah, you're saying just because you don't see it doesn't mean
right,
it
just because you
exists.
don't see it doesn't mean it exists, but we
Right.
see the evidence of something bigger than us,
Right.
because we can't create it. We still discovering things that we
Right.
think we are the smartest people in the world. You can put in one room and discover everything out there.
Right.
When we go outside the planet, because when we go outside the earth, right, we only seeing things of what in the earth, and we still haven't discovered everything yet. Right? No way. It's. I mean, there's no way that the earth spins on an axis at a certain evolution around the sun, right? And it's actually gravity is actually
and just so perfect was off just a little bit,
right.
We all be
Be
gone.
gone.
Yeah.
And then they've changed it when the four seasons
Right.
that we have, and then so that's what I'm saying. It's like, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's like faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I mean, when you really put that in perspective, you have to understand that number one is that we as human beings are are an example of faith. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, control, right? But it's really not, right? So every day that we get an opportunity, because the sun is going to come up no matter what,
Right.
right? And that's faith too, because we don't know if it's not, right? We can't forecast that,
Right.
right? We think we can, but we really can't.
Right.
But at the same time, too, we have to understand that our existence on this earth
Right.
is a form of faith because we have evidence of life,
Right.
but the unknown is still there. It's still unknown because we don't know what's outside of this earth, right? And the last but not least, I'll say is the quote is to be successful, you cannot make decisions based upon. I'll say, I mean, we tend to let our feelings, it's like 80-20. We tend to let our feelings control how we function in life or who we are,
Right.
right? But I believe it's life is more about if you have faith, you have to do, right? You
Right.
have to be able to actually, you can change your life just by doing
And,
more.
and this may be a little controversial. I don't know, was made reference. Um,
Right,
I don't think you just personally. I don't think you just sit there and
right,
like, okay, I pray for it. I'm gonna sit there and nothing happens. There's certain things that no matter what action we put in, that is still dependent on the movement of God.
right,
However, I'm gonna say, however, with that, we still have to have belief that even if we don't see it, it still can happen.
right, exactly.
There's a lot of things that we have in our life that we didn't know how it was going to turn out. We just had faith that it would work out that way.
Right,
And it did. And sometimes in the way
right,
we things gonna work, sometimes it comes out better.
exactly,
And
exactly.
and so it's having faith that the Bible talks about it, that if you ask a parent, if a kid asks a parent for something,
Right,
something specific, would the out and get something, or would go out and get a kid wanted,
most
even if we haven't seen it, that we have to have faith that we have a God out there
right,
who loves us unconditionally,
right,
that will provide all of our needs,
right,
especially if we pray for it.
exactly.
A manifestation strategy. So we're gonna talk about. I shit myself. We're gonna talk about Habakkuk, chapter 2, verses 2 to 3, where it says,
Mhm.
"Write the vision and make it plain,
Right,
for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Write the vision and make it
right,
plain, for the vision is yet for an appointed time."
exactly.
So write it down, watch it work. So, audience, have you taken the time to clearly define and write down the vision I believe God gave me?
That's a question. I mean, especially for people who are going into business. Something that always I always have told people is this is that going into business. I mean, you have to have a plan in place, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and it's called a business plan, right? It could be as small as just 2 pages. It could be as long as like a whole like pro forma, right? But that plan is what's going to tell you whether it's going to work or if it's not. That's why journaling is so important. Like people think it's just, want to be, they have to put my mind on paper. It's kind of like journaling, they're going to put it to action, but you also actually reading it,
Mhm.
right? And your mind is also creating it at the same time, right? I always tell everybody this: if you can put your business plan, if you have an idea, big idea, and you can put that on paper, and you have a business plan, you can put it on paper, or get somebody to help you sit down and put it on paper. You would see whether it's going to work, right? And then you can see what you have to tweak, right?
Right.
In order for it to work. Because when you go to the bank and unless you have the money to do it on your own, right? And that means you're gambling right now. You're taking a big chance because you have the money and you're just like, I'm just going to put this idea and throw money at it, right? You don't know if it's going to make a profit or it's not, based upon you just speculating, hey, I'm taking a gamble, right? Sometimes it works out like that, but then not. The bigger the risk in business is the bigger the reward, right? But at the same time, you want to mitigate that risk. And that's why it's important for you to have it written down. Like every single business that's on the stock market has every year to put out a plan, every year to put out a business forecast, and they have to meet those numbers. That's why they find in the stock market it goes up and down based upon meeting those metrics. So when the KPIs come out, you'll see the key performance indexes come out where, say, McDonald's didn't meet its 4-quarter goals, the stock goes down, right? Because it's a signal that something is happening and the economy affects everything, right? It's because it's foretelling. Maybe something is on the horizon. So, I mean, if it's so important for those businesses, and this is important for even if you have a small business, right? So I would say that's your vision, right? It's going to help you now understand, even like implying in your mind, because now you'll know the insides of your business. So nobody can come and tell you or take your idea, right? Because you already implied it, you wrote it down, you know the numbers, you know how a 5-year forecast, 2-year forecast, you know how much money you want to make. You also know what goals you have to meet in sales, right? And you're not just being like, oh yeah, well I'm making money, it's coming in,
Right.
Because if you're not, because what happens with a lot of businesses that start, and I'm using business as a way of saying it because it's written, we have to write it down,
right.
But what happens in a lot of businesses in the beginning is that when they start, they see the sales and the revenue coming in, but they're not accounting for the fixed and the variable expenses, which is the overhead, which is also the accounts receivable and the accounts payables. They're not accounting for those things. So they try to figure, it's like, they say business people is like, we like building the plane as we trying to land. Right. So, but a lot of times it is a risk you're taking, but I will say write it down. So, I mean, the quote for that is this, is that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, right?
Say it one more time.
You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Okay.
So that's why writing it down is like putting a system in place. Right? You're putting checks and balances in place when you're writing down. So I mean, if you do that with everything, even journaling and stuff like that, you realize that you're putting checks and balances in your mind of what's real and what's not.
Right.
So.
No, I mean you hit on some really important things when it comes to actually writing it down. Because a lot of times you have it in your head,
right?
And we're humans, we forget or we can't recall,
right?
And when you write it down, like, oh yeah, just like I talked about writing down the house thing, and there's other things I wrote down on there too that still came to fruition within or without that time frame. And I think a lot of times people focus too much on the how part,
right?
Like, how is this going to work,
right?
Instead of focusing on, if I write it down, I can adjust it,
right?
How it goes. Exactly. So if something's not working out, or something needs to be more clear, or something needs to be another objective, or whatever, or a different goal, a different strategy, you still got to write it down.
Right.
You have to know where you was at, so you're not making the same mistakes.
Exactly.
And where you're going, so you can make better decisions.
We're not going in circles, right?
Yes. So write it down. I got some on here that's going to hurt some minds too. Is manifestation requires forgiveness.
Yes.
So
yes, that's a good one.
Mark chapter 11, verse 25 says, "And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them."
Right.
Woo!
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
That's a tough one, right?
You know, one of the best statements I heard about forgiveness, I heard T.D. Jakes say it, and I've heard other thought leaders say this, is unforgiveness is like drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person you have issues with to be sick.
Ooh, true.
So unforgiveness
that's true. I heard that.
Drinking poison yourself and expecting someone else to get sick. It hurts you.
Right.
It hurts you.
Right.
And Listen, I understand that someone crossed you,
Right.
did you wrong,
Right.
didn't meet your expectations,
Right.
intentionally tried to hurt you.
Right.
And being human, I understand the frustration and the anger about that.
Right.
But the forgiveness is not for them.
Exactly. It's for you.
It's for you.
It's for you.
So question is let it go so you can grow. That's not the question, it's a statement. Let it go so you can grow.
Right.
If there was someone I need to forgive, so my prayers are in progress. Is there someone that I need to forgive so my prayers and progress aren't blocked? Woo!
Right. I mean, that's blocking your blessings, right? As they call it.
Yeah.
No, it's something that's so important, right? So, if you want things to actually grow in your life, you have to loosen the soil, right? A lot of times the soil's so tight that, I mean, you haven't watered it, you haven't even like put any type of manure or anything like that in it, or any type of anything for it to grow, but you want it to grow, bear fruit or bear plants or anything. But so that's what forgiveness is basically about. It's like you have to actually loosen that soil. You have to actually put that, and you're the soil basically, right? So things to grow from you and things to actually manifest from you. You have to have a clarity, right, about it, because you can't hold on to negative things, because it's kind of like negative positive. You can't hold on. And forgiveness is like, I mean, one of the things that kind of helped me understand, it's kind of like when I went through that self-awareness or self-development process of NLP. And one of the things that they always put it
What's
up,
NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
So, but it shows you, I mean, a lot, and it's more scientific than holistic, right? So, so what they show you though is that it helps you kind of become more self-aware of how things actually work in life, and because of your mind, right? Because the mind is such a powerful thing. Now, one of the things that they showed you, one of the presuppositions of which they call it from NLP, is that people are not their behaviors, right? How people behave, that's not who they are. And once you come to understand that, you understand that you can't always look at the behavior and say that's that person. Right? Because that behavior is is coming from somewhere else. Right? Because we're all human, right? And that the behavior that somebody manifests, it has nothing to do with you. Like it's them. It's them, right?
Them.
Right?
Yeah.
But they affect us. We make it affect us, right? Right.
There's a book called The Four Agreements, and one of the four agreements is don't take it personal.
Yeah, you can't. You really can't. And just because someone fails doesn't mean that they are a failure, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It also helps you understand not only you got to look at that people and our behaviors, but failure doesn't mean it's just an opportunity. I would say failure is it's just you have to switch around how you see failure. I mean, as I said, if you fail, it means you're a failure, right? Because number one, it's just a way of actually showing you, okay, well, what can you do? How can you do it better?
I mean, if you follow sports, anytime you miss a shot or you don't hit the ball, you strike out.
Right.
You're not considered a failure for that moment.
Right. Doesn't mean that you have to stop. Right. Does not mean you have to stop. Yeah.
Do we have to do a commercial break today? No commercial. No. Okay. Yeah. So, but continue on the forgiveness part. It's like when you hold on to unforgiveness, it's like holding on to this phone.
Right.
And let's say this phone is 10 years old.
Right.
And you need a new phone.
Right.
But you gotta hold on to it.
Right.
You're holding on so tight that you can't receive a new phone.
Right.
You can't receive the new blessing. And that's the power of forgiveness.
Right.
Is that when you're holding on to things, you can't open your hands to receive things that are there for you. And because we're not God, we can't predict what the future is going to be like. Now, however, I will say, going back to that, if someone has done you wrong, I'm not saying don't use your brain and get back into the same trap.
Right.
You use your brain. be intelligent.
Right, exactly.
Just don't
Exactly.
sit there and have control.
The other thing is kind of like somebody put it to me like this. Some people take whole unforgiveness like an emotional debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I'm sorry, unforgiveness like an emotional abuse come from that unforgiveness, or they always remember in that specific instance
Right.
when they were hurt, right? And they have the trauma. Well, it's kind of like at least a trauma. I wouldn't say that's always trauma, but at least a trauma, right? Because
Right.
you see things manifest in their lives because of trauma. Now, somebody put it to me like this, and I remember they say he went to the bank one time. One day he went to the bank, took out $40,000, right? And you had somebody ran by and grabbed $100 from the stack of $1,000. The only way you can chase that person is by leaving the $39,900 behind because it's pretty heavy, and chasing that person with a $100 bill because to try to catch up to them, right? So you just left, right, all that money behind,
Because
right?
you worried about.
To worry about that $100, and that's what life is. We do with life too,
Mhm.
right? We make one small second or hour or month or week in our life determine how we live the rest of our life.
Yes,
Right?
and you can't live in the past.
Yeah.
Because when you live in the past, you talk about double-minded.
Right.
How can you live in the past and still be in the now?
Right. Exactly.
So if you're holding on to unforgiveness, if you're holding on to not forgiving someone for doing something towards you, and that could be a family member, that could be a friend.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes
Right.
they out there living their life. They ain't
Right.
even thinking about you.
Right.
And get the other way. What if someone intentionally does something to you
Right.
and is doing it to control you?
Right.
You're giving them that power to still control you.
Right. Right.
So
That's true. That's
so
true.
we have to live consciously
Right.
on the decisions we make.
Right.
Forgive them, but don't be. Well, it's the same time.
Right. Right.
Be don't let someone.
Always understand the other person. The one thing about you, you'll understand that it's like at the end of the movie, they come together and they're
Right.
friends and all this stuff when they walk off in the sunset, right?
Right.
No, it's what we're saying is that, and what I've come to learn is that forgiveness is, yeah, I forgive you for that, but at the same time too, this is more for me, right? And I mean, I don't want to that relationship that we had, it can never go back to the same.
Right.
But at the same time too, I'm forgiving you because of me. So yeah, I mean, I see you as a normal person. I love
Right.
you as somebody, but I might be able to. I would rather love you from a distance.
Yeah.
because that person might change. You know, like that
Right.
person might be the person.
You can't let someone. You cannot let someone take
Right.
advantage of you just because you call yourself meek and humble and
Right.
holy.
Right.
That's just being unintelligent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You don't let people take advantage of you because you call yourself a Christian.
Absolutely.
However, we still don't let them have power over you. But I want to make sure I get through these other ones because that could be a whole show right there. Number 6 is your desires must align with God's will. So James chapter 4 verse 3 says, "You ask and you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives." So purpose over personal.
Right.
So ask yourself, are my goals aligned with God's purpose or just my own ambition? And I think we kind of have to be a little, how can I say? This one takes some finessing in a certain way, meaning that I believe God gives us ideas, vision, imagination on things we act on. And I believe what this particular verse is saying is that adjusting those things towards something else because we have the wrong motives. And it might be getting back at someone.
Right.
It may be to harm someone. It may be to harm yourself.
Right.
Um, it could be something destructive.
Right.
So I think we have to be honest about what you said earlier about what we truly want.
Right.
And making sure that with what we truly want, God gave us to us anyway.
Right.
When we deviate from that towards something that's not in our purpose,
Right.
then that's when you have the wrong motives.
Right.
So what's an example? What's a good example of someone going towards the wrong? Okay, I got one. Let's say you have a purpose in life to be married.
Right.
And right, like that's something that you want. It's a desire you have, and I believe if a desire is there, God puts it there for you.
Right.
However, you change the purpose of it for not building relationship, but you do it for just to get married for the money.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what? I'm gonna marry this person for money.
Right.
And I'm gonna get as much as I can. Stay with them for however many years.
Right.
Divorce them.
Right.
And take all that I can.
Right.
Him or her.
Right.
Or you marry someone
right.
with the wrong motives to take advantage of them.
Right.
So is the goal and purpose to get married wrong?
Right.
No.
Right.
But if you go in there with the wrong motives to take advantage of someone,
right,
then that's not in God's purpose.
It's like building a house in the sand that compared to building a house in the rock, right?
Yes.
So one of the things I always say,
that's a perfect example.
Yeah. So one of the things I always say about purpose is this: is I always go back to Pastor, what's his name? One of my favorite pastors who passed away.
Recently?
No, he passed. He was from the Bahamas.
Miles Monroe.
Miles Monroe. And that changed my perspective about purpose when he gave the purpose sermon. And I think that's one of his most popular sermons ever. He said, "Where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable." And he broke it down. He's like,
"You said when purpose
is unknown, abuse is inevitable." So if you don't know the purpose of something, you're going to abuse it. Which it doesn't mean that it's harming it. It's just that abuse. The word abuse means abnormal use. That's the Latin word that was put together. It's just going to use it
abnormal use.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't know the purpose of something or what something was built for, or what it was used for, even in your life, you're going to use it abnormally, and that's what happens a lot. Like, if you wanted the purpose of something, you got to ask the maker of the thing. Right? So the maker of the thing, if you believe that God created everything, you have to go to God to figure out your purpose. Right? Because if you don't do that, you're gonna be guided on, as Napoleon Hill said, you're gonna be a drifter, right? You're always gonna be seeking the next fix. So the next thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so and then
no one wants to be a drifter.
Right. And then the last thing he said is that, and then this was more kind of like for the Bible. He said everything has an owner's manual, right? And everything has an owner's manual, and that's kind of like the foundation. You have to have some kind of guidance, which is the Bible is basically our owner's manual as human beings, right? Of how to live our life to the highest ability that God's created us, right? Because in the Bible it has so many examples of people with different personalities and different circumstances and different situations that actually kind of mimics everybody in certain situations today, right? So you can look at how God used or the purpose that some people figure out what is once you understand what purpose is, you start to understand one thing is that God's, because as I said, if you look at everything that God created, the only difference that separates us as humans from every other species is self-awareness. Right. That's the only thing. But we kind of tend to use that self-awareness to create narratives, which we tend to follow, right? We kind of go off track of what God wants. As every species that he's created becomes the best